Hi, this is Sue Jackson of the Book by Book blog, and I'm here with another Friday Reads. I can't wait to tell you what I'm reading this week because I am really loving it. All of my reading is still for the Big Book Summer Challenge, but lots of other people have joined in the fun. You don't have to read big books all summer to participate in the challenge. Lots of people just pick one or two or a few big books, but I like to pick out a whole stack at the beginning of the year. And so I am thoroughly enjoying my latest read. As you can see, this one definitely counts as a big book. That's any book with 400 or more pages. I am reading The Lincoln Highway by Amor Towles, and I am just loving this book. He is also the author of A Gentleman in Moscow, which was one of my favorite books. It actually tied for my #1 book in 2021, along with The Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne. I couldn't make up my mind, but I loved both of those. So I've really been looking forward to this. My husband gave it to me for Christmas. I was saving it for Big Book Summer. And I am reading this as a buddy read with Nikki of Red Dot Reads. And I will link to her channel below. Please check it out. Nikki's is one of my favorite channels. She and I are on opposite ends of the globe, but we've become good friends through BookTube. She suggested that we do a buddy read with this book because she wanted to read it as well, and she saw it was in my stack for Big Book Summer. And this is my first ever buddy read, and I am really enjoying it. It's like a book group for just two people. Although she said she's done it with more than two people before, but really fun so far. So what this book is about is two brothers, Emmett, who's 18. He's just gotten out of juvenile detention at a work farm. And he returns to his home in Nebraska. He was let out a few months early because his father has died. And so Emmett returns home to his little brother, Billy, who's only 8 years old. And the two of them, the reason Emmett went into juvie, it was, and this is all set in 1954. The reason he got in trouble in the first place was because he got in a fight with a boy and mistakenly, accidentally killed him. So he knows there are people in the town that are not going to forgive him for that, even though it was an accident. So he comes home and makes a proposal to Billy that they leave. Their house has been foreclosed anyway because their father carried a huge amount of debt. So they don't really have a home anymore. So Emmett suggests to Billy that they take his Studebaker. Emmett owns a Studebaker, and get on the road and drive somewhere else and start fresh. He did some research while he was in juvie in the library. He's thinking maybe Texas. Well, Billy has some other ideas. He is fully on board with the idea of just packing up and leaving, but Billy wants to go to California, and he wants to take the Lincoln Highway to California. Now, Nikki and my discussion about this book has been interesting because she's British and lives in Singapore. I'm here in the U.S., so she assumed that since I was from the U.S., I knew all about the Lincoln Highway, and was surprised when I told her I had never heard of it before. And my family, we love road trips, and that's how we vacation. When our boys were younger, every single summer when school let out, starting when our youngest was 1.5 and our oldest was 5, every year in June, we would hit the road for 3 weeks with our little camper and head west. But I was explaining to Nikki, now everything is interstates and they're numbered, and I had never heard of the Lincoln Highway. This was the first interstate highway going from coast to coast in the U.S., basically connecting the country for the first time by road. Best of all, this book comes with a map. Don't you love a book with a map? And this one shows the Lincoln Highway. So Billy and Emmett's mom left when Billy was just a baby. But after their father died, Billy has uncovered postcards that she sent on her way to California. And that's what the stops marked on that map are. The places where Billy and Emmett's mom, at least westward, the places where she stopped and sent a postcard to them. So Billy wants to retrace their mother's steps. They haven't heard from her in 8 years. And Emmett is pretty sure, I mean, if she's been gone that long with no word, then she probably doesn't want to be found. But Billy's really got his heart set on this. And he's done all this research on the Lincoln Highway. Billy is an outstanding character. Nikki and I both agree. We just love him. He's only 8 years old, but he's a very precocious 8-year-old. He listens and he reads a lot, and he just takes in everything. And he remembers everything. And that is one of the joys of this book. And it does have some joys. There's also some heartbreak here. Billy and Emmett connect with a couple of other boys about Emmett's age, Duchess and Wooly, nicknames obviously. They are boys that Emmett knew from the juvenile detention center. So the story mostly is from those 4 perspectives. One of the cool things about doing a buddy read is Nikki and I have both noticed that the other person picks up things that we missed. And one of the things that Nikki pointed out to me is that the different chapters go from different characters' perspectives. But as Nikki pointed out, some are in third person and some are in first person, which is really intriguing why the author made that choice. So only partway through, this book is divided into 10 sections for each of the 10 days that they are on the road. I'm reading section 6 now, I think. And it's just a delightful book. I love the whole road trip aspect to it. As with A Gentleman in Moscow, Towles has created really fabulous, intricate characters that you get to know really well and that, I am really enjoying. So that is The Lincoln Highway by Amor Towles. Loving this big book. I also listen to big books on audio all summer long. And the one that I just finished was The Secrets Between Us by Thridi Umrigar. Now, I've already talked about this book in pretty good depth in the last 2 Friday Reads videos. So if you're interested in hearing more, I suggest you look back at one of my past 2 Friday Reads in August. Basically, this is the sequel to Umrigar's best-selling novel, The Spaces Between Us. It is set in India. It focuses on the class differences. In this second book, The Secrets Between Us, the focus is on Bhima, the servant from the first book, and her family, and how her life is changing. And Bhima lives in poverty with her granddaughter. They live in the Mumbai slums. Things are difficult for them. But through this book, for the first time, Bhima makes some friends, some true friends. She and Maya, for both of them, their worlds open up a bit. This is a really wonderful book. As I said, you can hear the details in a previous Friday Reads, but having just finished it, I can tell you I loved every moment of it. I was pulled into the story right from the beginning. I don't think you really need to have read the space between us to enjoy the secrets between us. The author fills you in on what happened in that earlier novel, which is good because I read it, I don't know, like 15 years ago. So I was glad she did that. It was excellent on audio. I highly recommend The Secrets Between Us by fridayreads. So I just finished that audiobook yesterday. I have not yet started a new one, but before I made this video, I chose my next audiobook. What I like to do at the end of Big Book Summer, Big Book Summer runs until Labor Day in the US, which is the first Monday in September. So it does go into September a little bit. And in September and October, I switched to reading dark, suspenseful things for the RIP challenge. That's Readers Imbibing Peril. This is a challenge that's been around in the book blogging world for a long time, I think almost 20 years now. I love doing this every fall, and we have loads of thrillers and mysteries and suspense here and other dark kinds of stories, because it's most of what my husband reads, although he's branched out quite a bit. But we've got a lot of that here, and I love reading those kind of books in the fall. So at the end of this month, I'm going to want to switch to a mystery or thriller, something like that, in both print and audio, so that my last book for Big Book Summer will also be my first book for the RIP challenge. So with that in mind, I chose the smallest of my big audiobooks that I had in my backlog. And this is a middle grade novel, Lines of Courage by Jennifer Nielsen. I'm a big fan of Nielsen's middle grade historical fiction. She also writes fantasy, and I've enjoyed some of those, though fantasy, I'm not as much into that as I am historical fiction. I read her middle grade novel, A Night Divided, about the Berlin Wall, which was absolutely excellent. This one is set during World War I, and I was really happy to hear that because I haven't read much about World War I. I've read so many novels and nonfiction about World War II, but very little about World War I. So this should be a good one for me. I haven't started it yet, so I will just read you a quick, very short blurb. This says, World War I stretches its cruel fingers across Europe, where 5 young people from different backgrounds and nations face the terror of battle, the deprivation of hunger, and all the awful challenges of war. Felix from Austria-Hungary longs for the bravery to resist Jewish deportations before his own family can be taken. Cara from Britain dreams of someday earning her Red Cross pin and working as a nurse, or even a doctor. Juliette of France hopes her family can remain knitted together despite her father's imprisonment as the war's longest battle stretches on and on. Elsa from Germany hopes her homing pigeon might one day bring her a friend from out of the chaos. And Dmitri of Russia wants only to survive the front where he's been sent with no weapon. None of them will find exactly what they want, but the winds of fate may cross their paths to give each of them just what they need. And in this remarkable exploration of World War I by critically acclaimed author Jennifer Nielsen, they will discover that friendship and courage can light the way through the most frightening of nights. So this sounds great to me. The hardcover was just 400 pages, so it just barely qualifies as a big book. The paperback comes out in February, and that's going to be 416 pages. So it's a big book, but just barely, and it's middle grade. So I'm hoping to read this one and then have time for one more audio big book before the end of the summer. So that's what I'm reading this week. I would love to hear what you're reading. Let me know in the comments down below.